the Department of Comprehensive Statistics of the National Bureau of Statistics. And she will brief you on the national economic performance in the first 2 months of 2024, and then she will take your questions. Now I'll give the floor to Ms. Liu. Friends from the media, good morning. I will first brief you on the national economic performance in January and February. In the first 2 months, the national economy remained stable and saw an increase. Under the strong leadership of the Central Committee of the CPC with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, all regions and departments strictly implemented the decisions and arrangements of the CPC Central Committee and State Council, adhered to the general principle of pursuing progress while ensuring stability, and fully and faithfully applied a new development philosophy on all fronts, accelerated building a new development paradigm, took solid steps to promote high-quality development, and endeavor to expand domestic demand, optimize structure, boost confidence, and prevent diffuse risks. As a result, the synergy of the macro policies continued to take effect. Production and demands remained stable and saw an increase. Employment and prices were generally steady, and development quality was improving. 1. Industrial production accelerated, and consumer goods manufacturing and high-tech manufacturing rebounded. In the first 2 months, the total value added of industrial enterprises above the designated size grew by 7% year-on-year, or 0.2 percentage points faster than in December 2023. The value added of mining went up by 2.3% year-on-year, manufacturing 7.7%, and production and supply of electricity, thermal power, gas and water up by 7.9%. Of consumer goods, manufacturing increased by 4.7%, or 4.4 percentage points faster than December 2023. The value added of high-tech manufacturing increased by 7.5%, 1.1 percentage points faster. By types of ownership, of state-holding enterprises grew by 5.8%, shareholding enterprises up by 7.3%, funded by foreign investors and investors from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan up by 6.2%, and that of private enterprises up by 6.5%. In terms of products, the production of 3D printing devices, electric vehicle charging facilities, and electronic components grew respectively by 49.5%, 41.8%, and 41.5% year-on-year. In February, total value added of industrial enterprises above the designated size went up by 0.56% month-to-month, and the Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index was 49.1%. The Production and Operation Expectation Index was 54.2%. And the service sector grew well, and the modern services showed a good momentum. The index of services production grew by 5.8% year-on-year, and specifically that of accommodation and catering, information transmission, software and information technology services, financial intermediation, transport, storage and postal services, and wholesales and retails grew respectively by 12.1%, 10.4%, 8.2%, 7.1%, and 7% year-on-year. The business activity index for services in February was 51%, 0.9 percentage points higher than the previous month. The business activity expectation index for services was 58.1%. Specifically, for road transportation, air transportation, catering, monetary and financial services, ecological protection and public facility management, and culture, sports and entertainment stayed within the high expansion range of 55.0% and above. 3. Market sales continued to recover and service consumption grew fast. The total retail sales of consumer goods reached 8,130.7 billion yuan, up by 5.5% year-on-year. In terms of areas, the retail sales of consumer goods in urban areas reached 7,043.7 billion yuan, up by 5.5%, and in rural areas reached 1,087 billion yuan, up by 5.8%. Grouped by consumption patterns, the retail sales of goods were 7,182.6 billion yuan, up by 4.6%. Income of catering was 948.1 billion yuan, up by 12.5%. The sales of upgraded goods grew fast. The online retail sales of consumer goods was 2,153.5 billion yuan, up by 15.3% year-on-year. The online retail sales of physical goods were 1,820.6 billion yuan, up by 14.4%, accounting for 22.4% of the total retail sales of consumer goods. In the first 2 months, the retail sales of services grew by 12.3% year-on-year, and in February, the total retail sales of consumer goods grew by 0.03% month-on-month. 4. Growth of investment in fixed assets picked up, and investment in manufacturing and high-tech industries continued to grow fast. In the first 2 months, the investment of fixed assets reached 5,084.7 billion yuan, up by 4.2% year-on-year, 1.2 percentage points higher than that of the year 2023. The investment in fixed assets was up by 8.9% year-on-year, with investment in real estate development deducted. Specifically, investment in infrastructure grew by 6.3% year-on-year, in manufacturing grew by 9.4%, and in real estate declined by 9%. The floor space of new commercial buildings sold was 113.69 million square meters, down by 20.5% year-on-year. And total sales of new commercial buildings were 1,056.6 billion yuan, down by 29.3%. By industry, the primary industry went down by 5.7%, secondary industry up by 11.9%, and the tertiary industry up by 1.2%. The private investment went up by 0.4% and increased by 7.6% year-on-year, with investment in real estate development deducted. Investment in high-tech industries grew by 9.4% year-on-year, of which investment in high-tech manufacturing and high-tech services grew by 10% and 7.8% respectively. The investment in manufacturing of optical and photographic equipment and in manufacturing of aerospace vehicles and equipment grew by 43.2% and 33.1% respectively. And in high-tech services, the investment in professional technical services and in information services went up by 36.2% and 16.1% respectively. In February, the investment in fixed assets increased by 0.88% month-on-month. 5. Imports and exports of goods grew fast and trade structure continued to optimize. The total value of imports and exports of goods was 6,613.8 billion yuan, up by 8.7% year-on-year. The value of exports was 3,752.3 billion yuan, up by 10.3%, and the value of imports was 2,861.5 billion yuan, up by 6.7%. The trade balance was 890.9 billion yuan in surplus. The imports and exports of general trade went up by 10% year-on-year, accounting for 65.7% of the total value of trade, 0.8 percentage points higher than that of the same period last year. The imports and exports by private enterprises went up by 17.7%, accounting for 54.6% of the total value, 4.2 percentage points higher than the same period last year. The export of mechanical and electrical products went up by 11.8%, accounting for 59.1% of the total value. 6. In the first 2 months, the urban survey unemployment rate averaged 5.3%. In February, the urban survey unemployment rate was 5.3%, 0.1 percentage points higher than the previous month, or 0.3 percentage points lower than at the same period last year. The surveyed unemployment rate of population with local household registration was 5.5%, and that of population with non-local household registration was 4.8%, and the rate of the population with non-local rural household registration was 4.8%. The urban surveyed unemployment rate in 31 major cities was 5.1%, and the employees of enterprises worked 48.0 hours per week on average. 7. In the first 2 months, the CPI remained the same year-on-year. Specifically, it decreased by 0.8% in January and increased by 0.7% in February. Grouped by commodity categories, in the first 2 months, prices for food, tobacco, and alcohol went down by 0.3%, articles and services for daily use up by 0.7%, transportation and communication down by 1.4%, education, culture, and entertainment up by 2.6%. Medical services and health care up by 1.4%, and other articles and services up by 2.9%. Among the prices for food, tobacco, and alcohol, the prices for pork went down by 9.1%, fresh fruits down by 6.6%, fresh vegetables down by 5.1%, and grain up by 0.4%. The core CPI, excluding the prices of food and energy, went up by 0.8% year-on-year. Specifically, in February, it went up by 1.2% year-on-year, or 0.8 percentage points faster than last month. In January and February, the CPI went up by 0.3% and 1.0% month-on-month respectively. In the first 2 months, the producer prices for industrial products went down by 2.6% year-on-year. In January, the producer prices for industrial products went down by 2.5% year-on-year, or down by 0.2% month-on-month. In February, it went down by 2.7% year-on-year, or down by 0.2% month-on-month. In the first 2 months, the purchasing prices for industrial producers dropped by 3.4% year-on-year. Generally speaking, with the macro policies taking effect, the national economy continue to recover and turn for the better. However, we should beware that the external environment is becoming more complex, severe, and uncertain. The domestic effective demand remains insufficient, and the foundation for economic recovery and growth needs to be further consolidated. Going forward, we must follow the guidance of Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era, fully implement the guiding principles of the Central Economic Work Conference and the 2 sessions, and adhere to the principles of pursuing progress while ensuring stability, promoting stability through progress and establishing the new before abolishing the old. We should fully and faithfully apply the new development philosophy on all fronts, speed up building the new development paradigm, strive to promote high-quality development, and step up efforts on macro regulation. We must effectively boost economic vitality, prevent and diffuse risk, improve public expectations, constantly consolidate and build the momentum of economic recovery and growth, and continue to effectively pursue higher quality economic growth and appropriately increase economic output.
随着宏观组合政策效应的持续释放，经济的内生动能积极修复，生产需求稳中有升，就业形势总体稳定，居民消费价格同比由降转涨，发展质量不断改善，经济运行起步平稳，延续了回升向好的态势。那么经济运行的这个特点呢，主要呈现在4个方面。一是主要的生产需求指标稳中有升。从生产看的话，工业生产有所加快，消费品制造业和高技术制造业回升，行业和产业增长面扩大。1到2月份，规模以上工业增加值同比增长7%，比上年12月份是加快了0.2个百分点。从增长面看，超过90%的行业，超过60%的产品，同比都实现了增长。服务业的增势向好。住宿、餐饮、交通运输等服务业较为活跃，服务业的景气度回升。1至2月份，服务业生产指数是同比增长了5.8%，那么其中住宿和餐饮业是增长了12.1%，交通运输、仓储和邮政业增长7.1%，都保持了比较快的一个增长。2月份，服务业商务活动指数是51%，比上个月是上升了0.9个百分点。连续2个月回升。从需求看，市场销售继续恢复，升级类商品消费潜力释放，节假日推动服务消费升温。1至2月份，社会消费品零售总额同比增长5.5%，其中限额以上通讯器材类商品零售额增长16.2%，体育娱乐用品类增长了11.3%。1至2月份，服务零售额同比增长12.3%，投资增速回升，制造业的投资较快增长，大项目带动作用比较明显。1至2月份，固定资产投资是同比增长了4.2%，比上年全年的增速是加快了1.2个百分点。那么其中制造业投资是增长9.4%，加快了2.9个百分点。进出口保持较快增长，1至2月份。货物进出口同比增长8.7%。第二个特点，就业形势总体稳定，城镇调查失业率保持平稳。1月份城镇调查失业率是5.2%，2月份是5.3%，环比有所上升。这个主要是受春节因素的影响，那么符合季节性变化的规律。与上年同期相比的话，1月份和2月份的城镇调查失业率都是下降的，下降0.3个百分点。 三是居民消费价格同比由降转涨。2月份受这个春节假期食品和服务消费需求增加，然后部分地区雨雪天气影响了食品供应，另外还有国际油价上行等因素的影响，居民消费价格环比上涨1%，同比则是由上个月的下降0.8%转为上涨0.7%。核心 CPI 是明显回升。2月份扣除食品和能源的核心 CPI 同比上涨1.2%，涨幅比上个月扩大了0.8个百分点。第4个特点，新动能新优势不断培育，高技术产业发展向好。1至2月份规模以上高技术制造业增加值同比增长7.5%，比上年12月份是加快了1.1个百分点。1至2月份高技术产业投资和制造业技术改造投资同比分别增长9.4%和15.1%，保持了较快增速。新业态也继续活跃。1至2月份实物商品网上零售额是同比增长14.4%，比上年全年加快6个百分点。总的来看今年前2个月随着宏观组合政策的这种靠前发力，经济运行持续恢复，加上春节假期的有力带动，国民经济起步平稳，稳中有升。但是世界经济增长的前景仍面临较大的不确定性，当前这个国内有效不足等问题仍然是这个存在，那么推动经济持续回升向好的基础还需进一步巩固。下阶段要全面贯彻落实中央经济工作会议和全国两会的精神，聚焦经济建设这一中心工作和高质量发展这一首要任务，坚定发展信心，狠抓政策的落实落地，切实增强经济活力，防范化解风险，改善社会预期，努力推动经济实现质的有效提升和量的合理增长。好，这个整体的情况就介绍这里。
好，请继续提问。好，这个左边第4排这位女士。
谢谢主持人。发言人您好，请问您如何看待1到2月份工业生产数据？对于未来一段时间的工业生产情况，您又有何预判？谢谢。
好的。今年这个1到2月份这个应该讲随着各项政策的持续落地显效，那么工业生产增长是加快的。刚才我也介绍到，规模以上工业增加值是同比增长7%。比上年12月份是加快了0.2个百分点。那么具体来看呢，工业领域呈现以下这个运行的特点。第一个特点，行业和产品的增长面扩大，实物量指标较快增长。1到2月份，41个工业大类行业中有39个行业增加值都实现了同比增长，增长面是95.1%，比上年12月份是扩大了19.5个百分点。那么统计的619种主要工业产品中，418种产品产量增长，增长面为67.5%，扩大了5.7个百分点。那么从实物量的指标看，规模以上的工业发电量同比是增长了8.3%，那么货运量呢是增长了7.5%，也都保持了比较快的增长。第二个特点，高技术制造业的增长加快。1到2月份，规模以上高技术制造业的增加值同比增长7.5%，比上年12月份是加快了1.1个百分点，已经连续3个月加快增长。其中，电子及通信设备制造业、航空航天器及设备制造业的增加值分别增长12.6%和14.1%，都是呈现了2位数的增长。3是消费品制造业回升幅度较大。1到2月份，规模以上消费品制造业的增加值同比增长4.7%，比上年12月份是加快了4.4个百分点。那么在13个消费品行业中，有12个行业增速都是在回升的。其中家具制造业是增长11.1%，文教工美增长10%，食品增长7.3%，都高于这个规上工业的平均的增速。第4个特点是工业出口由降转增。1到2月份，规模以上工业出口交货值是由上年12月份的同比下降3.2%，转为增长0.4%，那么结束了此前连续8个月的下降的这种态势。在这个10大出口行业中，有8个行业的出口增速 都比上年的12月份加快或者是降幅收窄。那同时也要看到当前部分工业企业的经营压力还是比较大的，那么仍然面临订单不足、成本上升等问题。但是我想还是更要看到，我国制造业在这个不断巩固产业体系完整、市场规模庞大等传统优势的同时，创新的能力也是在不断的提升。那么在一些重点的领域和关键赛道上，形成了一批优势产业，正在转型升级中重塑竞争力。那么今年全国两会将这个大力推进现代化产业体系建设，加快发展新质生产力位列这个2024年政府工作的首位。出台包括大规模的设备更新和消费品以旧换新，进一步优化营商环境等在内的一系列政策措施。这些措施的落实落地，有望对后续的工业经济发展形成有力的推动，对工业高质量发展提供强劲的推动力和支撑力。那么工业生产有望继续保持平稳运行，继续发挥经济压舱石的作用。好，谢谢。
好，请继续提问。好，右边第一排这位女士。
好，谢谢，我是凤凰卫视的记者。
好，请继续提问。好，右边第一排这位女士。
谢谢，我是凤凰卫视的记者。想请问您如何看待1、2月份的投资，特别是民间投资的情况？那么随着新一轮的这个大规模设备更新的开展，怎么看待这个下一阶段的趋势？谢谢。
关于今年这个以来的头2个月的这个投资的情况那么应该讲从刚才公布的数据来看的话，今年头2个月投资增速是有所回升的。1至2月份固定资产投资是同比增长4.2%，比上年全年增速加快了1.2个百分点。那么也呈现出了比较多的这个亮点和特点第一个特点呢是这个3大领域的投资增速加快或者是降幅收窄。1至2月份制造业投资是增长了9.4%。比这个2023年的全年是提高了2.9个百分点。基础设施投资是增长了6.3%，加快了0.4个百分点。那么房地产开发投资是下降9%，降幅比上年全年也是收窄了0.6个百分点。2是新动能领域投资较快增长。1至2月份高技术产业投资同比增长9.4%。制造业技术改造投资增长15.1%，这2个增速都是明显快于全部投资的增速。
In the first 2 months,
1到2月份从太阳能发电、风力发电、
electricity production, as well as the other sectors, we have registered 14.4% in investment. And for the projects for the improvement of people's daily lives, we have also progressed with the investment. For example, natural gas and electricity. Number 4 for the major projects for the first 2 months. For the large-scale projects, we have registered an increase of 12.1% of the investment. For the non-governmental investment, we have also registered progress. Last year, we have registered a downward tendency in this sector, but this year, for the first 2 months, we have registered an upward tendency. In the civil investment, manufacturing, catering, and housing, we have registered double-digit increase. Last year, by the last quarter, we have published and issued a lot of government-funded loans, the bonds of the state. So it is estimated that we can maintain this good trend of investment. Business index of the construction sector has been maintained around 53.5, so it's a rather optimistic level. And we can say that we can expect a rather steady increase of the investment. Next question, please.
Thank you. Market News International. Despite recent support measures, the property sector remains subdued. What policies are needed to boost the sector going forwards, and can property sector investment turn positive this year? Thank you.
请翻译一下。
美国国际市场新闻社提问：尽管最近采取了支持措施，但房地产行业依然低迷。
Now is the Chinese translation of the previous question.
提振房地产行业，房地产投资能否在今年转为正增长？
Thank you for your question. Since 2023, all the authorities have adopted policies to better the regulation on the real estate market. And we have decided to take measures to lower the cost of transactions in the property market. All those measures have been proved effective in maintaining the stability of the property market. We have registered a downward 9% of decrease of the operation in the property market in the first 2 months of this year. The commercial housing retail volume has dropped by 29.3% by the first 2 months of this year. In the retail, online sales of the furnitures went up by 4.6%, and construction materials went up by 2.1% in terms of the sales. Considering all those statistics, we think that the property market is still in the phase of transition and readjustment. During the 2 sessions meetings, as well as the party conference, we have published new demands for the regulation and the development of the property market. We have to expand the offer of the guarantee housing to respond to the demands of the people for basic living. We're about to put all those measures into application, and with all those measures in place, we can also ensure a healthy development of the property market for the next phase. Next question, please. Thank you. With the first finance, in the government's work report, the GDP growth goal has been set around 5%. Considering the economic performance in the first 2 months of this year, what are the conditions set for the achievement of that goal? For the first 2 months of this year, considering the economic performance, we have to admit the challenges and the complexity in the current economic picture, but still we can see the optimistic prospect of the future economic growth. We have the macroeconomic policies, so we think that to achieve that goal of the 5% of GDP growth, we have all the conditions to achieve that goal. First of all, for the first 2 months of this year, we have rather steady economic growth, setting a solid foundation for the whole year's economic performance. For the production demand, we have very steady growth. Employment situation is steady, and the CPI is also steadied, setting a very good foundation for this year's growth as a whole. For the positive factors is also in growth. We are repairing the domestic economic growth. We have better circulation of goods and human resources. For the first 2 months of this year, the goods sales and the transportation has gone up. So it's also true with the circulation of the people. During the Spring Festival season, we have registered very good performance of the market in terms of tourism and also cultural activities. And people have spent 47.3% more year-on-year for the tourism and cultural activities. With more spending, we have more confidence in the domestic economic growth. And currently, according to the statistics, we notice that the enterprises, they have expressed a higher degree of optimism on the future market growth. We're about to create more possible space for the enterprise operation. Our policies measures, they're about to deliver very good results. In this year's two sessions, we have set the goals for this year's economic work and also for the GDP growth. We have decided to renew all the equipments and consumers' goods. We will issue more bonds of the government, and we will also lower the costs of doing business. We will cut the fees and also the taxes for the people. Our economy is picking up, but still we have to admit that we are in this phase of transition. It's a very critical stage. We are still facing the difficulties like insufficient domestic amounts. In the first 2 months of this year, the economic performance is satisfying, but still we have to look at the bigger picture in order to have the final say. But what we can do for the moment is to apply all the measures set by the government, and we have to stay confident and we have to stay firm with the application of our policies so that we can have a long-term perspective and we can achieve our goal in the long term. Thank you. Next question, please. Thank you. With the Xinjiang newspaper, I have a question about consumption. In this year's government work report, it is said that we have to boost the consumption. What are the characteristics of consumption for the first 2 months of this year, and what is the future trend of that? Thank you for your question. So you're asking about consumption of this year. According to the statistics, since this year, market retail sales have picked up for the first 2 months. Total sales of the consumer's good in the market registered an increase of 5.5%. First of all, during the vacations, we have restored the consumption. In different places of China, the local businessmen have created new atmosphere for the consumption. And for the first 2 months of this year, it's also the Spring Festival season, so people have visited their family members in the other city and the other provinces. There's greater contribution to the consumption of transportation. There's an increase of 13% in the cultural activities and the sports. During the Spring Festival, recreational activities, the ticket box has increased by 52%. And the people traveling around in the country grew in 47.3% during the Spring Festival season. Automobile, home appliances, and the camera have registered an increase of 8.7% and 5.7%. New activities of consumption have also registered a fast growth. Also online, we have noticed a faster ratio of the consumption. For example, today, people can buy the physical goods from the online shows and live stream promotion of the goods. Number 4, in the countryside, we have also noticed a strong purchasing power for the first 2 months. Retail sales increased by 5.8% of the consumer's goods, which is higher than that in the cities. Currently, we have a lot of optimistic factors supporting the recovery of the consumption. For the room of consumption, we can have a better performance in terms of the consumption of services. Today, we are also noticing the emergence of new types of consumption. For example, applications supported by AI, they are maturing. Recently, we have the stabilized increase of revenue and stabilized economic growth, creating a favorable environment for people to spend more and to boost consumption. And we can also wait for the policies of the government to deliver further effects. People's spending capacity can be further raised up. But today, for the structure between supply and demand, we have to make a further effort to improve that structure. We have to follow the instructions of the 2 sessions and the other instructions by the central government. We have to stabilize and consolidate the traditional forms of consumption and, in the meantime, create new pillars of different types of trendy consumptions. Thank you. With CNBC, I have 2 questions. First of all, in the property market, what is the highlight and what is the trend you have noticed? Secondly, with the growing manufacturing industry, some people are worrying about an oversupply problem. Is that true according to the current statistics? Should we be worried about that? Thank you for your question. So you have asked 2 questions. First one is about the property market. Previously, I've already briefed you about the property market. For the operation and investment in the property market, in the first 2 months, we have registered rather positive signs. Even though currently the trend has delivered some narrowing down signs of the investment, but still we have improved the retails of the housing and also decoration materials as well as the furniture. Especially in comparison with the performance of last December, we can see some positive signs. But still, we have to admit that the property market is in transition and in a phase of readjustment. So we have to apply the instructions of the 2 sessions. And we have to continue to contribute to a steady and healthy development of the property market. Second question is about investment in the manufacturing sector. Currently, in China, the manufacturing industry is making a transition. In the past, we have put the focus on quantity, but now we'd like to transform the growth of the industry of manufacturing towards the quality-based development. We have to cultivate new types of sectors and industries. And also, we have to plan out the future structure of the industries. For the first 2 months of this year, manufacturing investment has registered an increase of 9.4% year-on-year, which is 2.9 percentage points higher than that of last year. Actually, we are accelerating the performance in the manufacturing. High-tech manufacturing has registered an increase of investment of 10.4%, which is higher than the investment in the traditional manufacturing sector. Last year, for the utilization ratio of the manufacturing industry is more than 70%. In the 4th quarter, it's 76%. So in general, currently, the productivity utilization ratio is satisfying. And more investment pouring into this sector can help us to build up the new quality productive forces. We also have to have a better use of different channels of investment and resources. Next question, please. Thank you. With the Shenzhen TV. My question is about employment. What is your take on the employment statistics? This year, we're about to reach the goal of 12 million new jobs. How can we achieve that goal? So this is a question about employment situation. According to the statistics, since the start of this year, we have a rather steady situation of employment. Urban unemployment ratio was 5.3% in February, which is 0.1 percentage points higher than January due to the Spring Festival season. In the big cities, the employment situation has been improved. In February, the surveyed urban unemployment ratio was 5.1%, which is 0.6 percentage points lower than the previous month. A migrant workers' unemployment ratio has also dropped by 1.2 percentage points. For the first 2 months, unemployment ratio has been restrained and the total situation of employment has been stabilized. We have also more contributing factors to stabilize the employment. For example, today we are picking up the services and we have the transition of productive forces. We have also new sectors like the green economy. Those are the new pillars of the GDP and economic growth of the country, contributing to a stabilized employment situation. We also have more supporting policies from the government. With the local governments, we have published policies related to taxation and also the fees cut. For the large enterprises, the local governments are giving greater support. In the meantime, we also give the employment-related services to the job seekers. In the meantime, we still have to admit that we are facing a structural challenge and we still have a big task in front of us to guarantee the employment market. Next question, please. Thank you. With Bloomberg. Previously, you mentioned that in the database of the State Bureau of Statistics, you published the unemployment ratio for the age group of 16 to 24. When could we get that statistics? And another question is about commercial housing. We noticed that you have published the statistics about the retail sales of the commercial housing. And also, we have heard about the retail sales of the newly constructed houses. Are the two the same thing or not? Thank you. The two questions. First one is about the age group, publication of the data of different age groups. In our press conference held in the first month of this year, we have briefed about the publication channels. Every month, we will publish the data of the age group of 16 to 24, 25 to 29, and 30 to 59 every month. About 2 to 3 days after the organization of the press conference, you can check out the data in the database in our official website. Currently, we have already registered and also published the data for the January. Second question about the indication and the naming of the indicators of the commercial housing. More precisely, we should say the retail, we have to use the name of retail sales of the newly constructed commercial housing. Actually, it's the same thing. with the paper. This year, the PMI has continued on the same track of last year, and the 5 major sectors contributing to PMI have also registered a downward tendency. What is your take on that? Thank you for your question. In February, we have published the statistics which have attracted a lot of attention. PMI is a circular indicator published on the monthly basis. So the PMI for February is calculated in comparison with the performance in January. And the PMI of February of this year has been affected by the Spring Festival season. PMI in February was registered at 49.1%, which is a little bit lower than the previous month. After the Spring Festival, there's a bigger flow of employees back to the cities, back to their industries. And that's why there's the fluctuation with the PMI in February. Expected business indicator is one of the major indicators contributing to the PMI result. In reality, considering the operation of manufacturing industry, in February, manufacturing has accelerated their performance with 7% of increase year-on-year and 5.6% on the circular basis. So that is a rather fast development. Moving forward, with the restoring demands in the market, manufacturing PMI could be mounting up according to our expectation. Next question, please. Thank you. With the 21st Economic Daily. In February, the CPI has gone up by 3.7%, but the PPI dropped by 2.7%. What is your explanation? So your question is about the pricing in the market. In February, during the Spring Festival, people made more shopping activities and they traveled a lot. First of all, there's a greater increase on a circular basis. For the food, pricing up by 3.3%, circular increase of more than 2 percentage points. Non-food product price up by 0.5%, which has contributed to 0.44% of the total CPI. Considering the boosted demands of the people for cultural activities and transportation, and also for the other recreational activities during the Spring Festival, we can understand the fluctuation with the CPI. Now, CPI has registered an increase of 0.7% in February, but we have narrowed down the increase of CPI with the food pricing by 0.5 percentage points. Non-food products also went up because there's a greater increase of the service-related prices. The service-related consumption prices went up by 1.7% in February. Number 3 is the core product price. When we deduct a fossil fuel a factor, we can see the core CPI has registered a peak level since February. With the recovery of the activities and also with the application of government policies, it is estimated that the CPI will continue to register a moderate increase for next period to come. You have also mentioned about PPI. In this month, PPI has also been impacted by the Spring Festival. Industrial production has entered into a mild season. That's why it's down by 0.2% in February. And year on year, they have registered a drop of 2.7%. But in general, that's a very moderate change of the PPI. In February, for the sports, cultural activities, for the manufacturing of tobacco, chemical fibers, of the beverage, clothing, all these sectors have registered an increase between 0.4 to 4.5%. And also the crude oil has made an impact on the price level in the domestic market. In the meantime, in PPI, some of the raw materials have received impact of the suspension of investment projects during the Spring Festival. For the next period to come, currently, we can see that in the international market, we have a lot of uncertainties. But with the expansion of the demands, we can gradually restore the production and manufacturing industry, so the PPI can be estimated to rise up again. Thank you. With the Red Star Journal, we have noticed that this year during the 2 sessions, we have highlighted the new quality productive forces. So what is the performance of representative sectors for the new quality productive forces? Thank you for this question about new quality productive forces. By the end of last year, during the Central Economic Work Conference, it is stated that we have to, first of all, realize the innovation of science and technology. Then we can boost the innovation of the other sectors. And innovation is the key word for the new quality productive forces. Over the past year, we have further progressed in the modernization of industries. We have built up more pillars of new economic sectors. For the content industries, we have made very good results. And today, we have also greater pursuit of the higher quality productive forces. First of all, for the industries with high efficiency and high productivity, for example, equipment manufacturing has registered an increase of 8.6%, which is 1.6 percentage points higher than the average performance of the large-scale manufacturing industry. And for the semiconductor manufacturing, with an increase of 41.2%, integrated circuits more than 26%, and the drones with an added value of 18.2%. In the traditional manufacturing, intelligent manufacturing and green manufacturing have also registered very good performance, like the green industry, the robotics, and also the printing, 3D printing. New energy vehicles increased by 25.6%. Charging piles has also registered a very good increase in their added value. For the investment in the emerging sectors is also in an increasing tendency. And for the high-tech manufacturing, they have even registered a double-digit increase. Live stream promotion is developing steadily. For the first 2 months of this year, the online retail sales of consumer goods have outrun those in the traditional channels by 9.8 percentage points. All these new driving forces and productive forces have contributed to a healthy development of the national economy. That's all for today's press conference. Thank you.